Hi everyone, it's me, Kate, extreme viewer, linguist, researcher, teacher, founder of Lingua and Lingua Plus. And today I have a question for you, especially if you're bilingual, multilingual, perhaps you're monolingual and you're learning, well, one or two languages. Does your personality change when you speak another language? And if so, how does it change? This question has been on the mind of many multilingual people for a few decades, and now I'm not an exclusion. In fact, when I was a teenager, I started asking these questions because I was already, well, multilingual-ish in a way. I was getting to my fluency in different languages, and also due to my upbringing, I was exposed to a few languages. And then in time of my teenage years, when I entered first university, where I studied linguistics, history of linguistics, there I discovered such a notion called a linguistic personality. But that particular notion, created by Korolev, it wasn't exactly what I've come up with by now. According to Korolev, linguistic personality, it's a sort of say model, the way how a person expresses herself or himself with certain, say, set of vocabulary, grammar constructions, like frequent words. It's heavily focusing on cognitive functions of an individual. But I realized while studying as well other prominent, researchers in linguistics, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, that language is not just a cognitive function. And we've talked a little bit about it, in the videos about emotions, so on. So, according to Langacker, language is a psychological phenomenon. So there, I realized that I needed to look more into works of Carl Jung, for instance. Um, Carl Jung saying that personality or persona is more like a mask. And it's not bad. We're still, we're authentic when we change our masks, come in, let's say, home to our family, or then going to work to meet our colleagues, or then going to meet friends, and so on. So they're all sort of like um, mechanisms of social adaptation. Right, good, evolution. And then I thought, all right, so if we have this mechanism in one language, what if we then take this mechanism, put it in like multi-dimensional world, multilingual, multicultural world? And from there, I discovered more, of course, as we have, as you said, Björn Worf, relative linguistics. I tell you, language influences cognition, not cognition, language. And one of their ideas was that people speaking a particular language have a certain worldview. And I kind of, share this notion because indeed, I believe this is what's happening because we all look at the world, mm, through a particular prism, the culture that's expressed via language. Um, I studied more, I researched, and I discovered that there was Anna Wisbicka, and probably you watched a video. If you haven't, you must watch videos all about emotions. So Anna Wisbicka talking about emotions across languages, specifically her example, um, how we develop emotional scripts when we switch from language to language, from culture to culture. I said, nice. So, in fact, there are studies talking about our anger, our connection to strong emotions like love, affection. Have a look at Anna Pavlenko or Jean-Marc Duval, their works. Good. This is all connected to personality, to our behavior expression. And then I, of course, looked at the point of identity. And I know that identity has been studied like in multilingual realm, much more than personality. specifically, the sense of belonging, right? When you talk about third culture kids or immigrant kids, so on. And if you're interested in that, you should definitely look into Bonnie Norton's work. Norton is saying, like, if you give your students, if you're a teacher, an idea of an imagined identity, an imagined community, imagined society. So something that will happen in the future when the person is going to speak language, say, quite advanced level. And then you create this positive image visualization that helps them to stay motivated, stay invested, and eventually get there. Cool. I think, yeah, it's interesting. But what if we look at it as well from another perspective, saying, all right, we have here an imagined identity, but what if we start also building a personality? And some people right now watching this video might say, oh, right, I feel more extroverted or more introverted in my second, third to a language. True. You can start developing different traits in another language and culture. For me, it feels like you have different paths. One path is indeed to focus in, let's say, isolation in your, say, flat or apartment, classroom, or you can connect to that culture, the culture of your target language, and try to get attuned to that culture consciously, unconsciously, like in a way, like, without being aware what's happening. And in my case, through the years, while I was moving, studying different countries, living, working, I've been using theater, and I've been, sharing this as well in my TED talk and other talks that when I was at academy, like a theater, I acquired different techniques that helped me to observe, eventually, turning into an anthropologist, observing people and saying, that's what it is to be Spanish, like Spaniard, that's what's to be Italian, and so on. Not stereotypical, but more from observations, right? And then trying to kind of mimic that in a certain way. So for me, I've come up with this notion, and maybe you've heard it, maybe not. If you haven't, definitely go and check it out. Oh, it's called language alter ego. For me, it's like a process of voluntarily or involuntarily creation that personality. I mean, calling it as well linguistic personality, kind of basing, on the notion of Carlos, like his, Carlos ideas. But I feel that eventually it's already a union of a personality and identity all together there in your target language in a foreign sociocultural context. And it involves in cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence and so much more. But for you, kind of imagine it, visualize it, we can see that it consists of certain components. And for me, this particular year, 2024, has been really remarkable in terms of, my research and, constructional theory, because I've been doing it for the past 15 years. That language alter ego consists of these different components, these different blocks that are, of course, cognitive blocks, and there are verbal communication, and then non-verbal communication. And then you have the culture, and then emotions, and also psychology, it's like on conscious level. And then certainly you have all the parts of like social relations, so social block. And then there's like historic narrative, when we connect let's say certain phrases, set phrases, idioms, to certain, say, context, in history and so on. And of course, it's all about perception of self and perception of the world. right? And then semiotics, right? All the signs. And certainly it's all about, senses, like sensory, and so on and so forth. So eventually I've come up with 13 blocks connected to the notion of language alter ego. And with that, what I'm trying, I think, to convey, and what we as well, like what we're doing with Lingua, what we're doing with Lingua Plus, that language, like language per se, like language learning, it's much more than just words and grammar. So all these meanings, all the layers of meanings, intricate connections between ideas, how we're reading, yeah, between the lines, and then eventually how we relate to each other across those languages and cultures, how we connect, how we understand each other, and then how we share meanings. I'm going to create more videos connected to that particular part. If you're interested, you can also read fresh books, on language alter ego, unlocking language alter ego, and fostering it, for teachers. But sit there for a moment after watching this video and think what happens to you when you learn languages and when you speak them, especially when you go to the country of your target language and you communicate with natives. What changes? How it changes? Or maybe nothing changes. I've had different answers, but over the years, I've discovered that a lot of people, multilingual, multicultural people, felt in very similar way how I feel and how I see it. So I realize that I'm not just, in my head, like biased. But even if it's different, share, tell us. Maybe, there was something in your upbringing or the way how you were taught languages that didn't connect, let's say, certain internal mechanisms to your language. Maybe, for you, speaking a language is like, calculating math, very robotic, or maybe it's a very essential experience. Like, I don't know. I'm curious. Feel free to share in the comments. If you like this video, you want more of these videos, like, subscribe, follow us, and then, yeah, comment. And looking forward to our conversations. Well, folks, thank you. It's me, Katrine Matuver, and I'll see you in next videos. Bye.